Welcome to Thrive at the Top, the podcast for leaders, professionals, and decision makers navigating high-pressure industries and are done with surface-level solutions. Here, we talk about the realities of human performance, psychological safety, resilience, and what it actually takes to sustain people and performance in complex operational environments. My name is Mabel Munyimani, founder of 𝗕𝘂𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗶 𝗵𝗂 and the creator of the Safe Pillars Framework. We help organizations strengthen human performance, operational resilience, and disclosure readiness in high-pressure environments. And today, I want to talk about readiness. We are continuing our series of Inside the Infrastructure, and why readiness is our topic for this week. Because in aviation, we understand readiness very well. Before an aircraft flies, we check it. Before somebody operates, we train them. Before new equipment is introduced, we test it. We have maintenance schedules. We have procedures. We have systems. We have checks and balances everywhere. And we do all this because we need to know it is ready. But I want us to apply that same thinking to people. But how do we know our people are ready? Not just qualified, not just rostered, not just physically present, ready to perform. Because those are very different things. What do I mean by human performance readiness? Let's keep this very simple. Human performance is our ability to think, make decisions, communicate, respond, and perform with the conditions around us. And those conditions change. Workload changes. Pressure changes. Fatigue changes. Things happen at home and things happen at work. Teams change. Leaders change. Operations change. That's a lot of change, right? And sometimes things happen very quickly. So when I talk about human performance readiness, I'm talking about whether our people, our leaders, and our systems around them. So when I talk about human performance readiness, I'm talking about whether our people, our leaders, and the systems around them are in a position to perform when the operation needs them. Can people think clearly? Can they make good decisions? Can they speak up when something isn't right? Can they recognize when their own performance may be affected? Do they know where to go for support? Do they trust that support? Can leaders recognize when something is changing? And does the organization have enough visibility to respond early? That for me is readiness. Because being at work doesn't automatically mean being ready. And I think this resonates with everybody. Someone can turn up for their shift and still be exhausted. I think we've all done that at some point, right? To be honest, someone can be highly experienced and still be carrying an enormous cognitive load. Someone can have passed every competency assessment and still be struggling. Someone can look absolutely fine and be dealing with something nobody else knows about. And this is important in high-pressure industries because the person may still perform, they may continue doing their job, they keep pushing, they may keep pushing until eventually something changes. Maybe they make a mistake. Maybe they take time off. Maybe their performance drops. Maybe they leave. Maybe there's an incident. And now the organization has something it can measure. But by then, we are looking at an outcome. The conditions that created that outcome may have been building for weeks, months, or even years. That is what we want to get better at seeing. That's the MMC mission. And this is where human performance risk comes in. Human performance risk is what happens when the conditions around somebody begin to affect their capacity to perform safely, effectively, and sustainably. And I want to emphasize the word conditions because we can have excellent people operating inside poor conditions. We can recruit the best and we can train the best. We can select people very carefully, but selection does not guarantee sustained performance. People still need the right conditions around them. And this is where readiness becomes a business conversation. Readiness protects the investment. First point I want to talk about. Think about how much an organization invests in its people. Recruitment, selection, training, licensing, leadership development, technical competency, experience, years and years of knowledge. And in aviation, that investment can be significant. So when an experienced person burns out, becomes disengaged, leaves the organization. So when an experienced person burns out, becomes disengaged, takes prolonged absence, or leaves the organization altogether, we haven't simply lost a person. We may have lost years of investment, years of knowledge, years of experience. And then we have to recruit, train, and develop somebody else. So when we strengthen human performance readiness, one of the things we're doing is protecting the investment. Second point, readiness protects the operation. You need people who have the capacity to perform. Pilots, cabin crew, air traffic controllers, engineers, grounds team, airport teams, instructors, leaders. Having enough people on a spreadsheet doesn't necessarily mean you have enough operational capacity, because if fatigue is high, absence is increasing. People are disengaging. Experienced people are leaving, or people don't feel safe speaking up when something is affecting their performance. Eventually, the operation feels it. So we have to protect the human system because we also need to protect the operation. Thirdly, readiness protects the strategy. This is the part I think we need to talk about more. Organizations have big strategies: growth strategy, expansion, new aircraft, new fleet, new routes, new airports, new technology, new training pipelines, more passengers, more capacity. All of these look great on a strategy document, but people have to deliver it. If your business strategy is growing faster than a human system can sustain, eventually that gap matters. You can have the aircraft, you can have the technology, you can have the capital, but if people required to execute that strategy don't have the capacity to keep up with it, the strategy becomes harder to deliver. So human performance readiness is also about protecting the strategy. And lastly, the fourth point, readiness protects reputation. Reputation takes years to build, and sometimes just one incident can change how customers, employees, regulators, investigators, and the wider public see an organization. Of course, not every incident is caused by human performance. That's not what we're saying. But the conditions influencing human performance can contribute to operational outcomes. Fatigue, for example, workload, poor communication, low trust, people being afraid to speak up, leadership decisions under pressure. All of these matter. So when organizations identify human performance risk earlier, they are also strengthening another layer of protection around the organization. And this is the protection of reputation. This is the business case I presented you today. And this is where I want organizations to start thinking differently about human performance. Yes, this is about people, but it's also about business. Protect the investment, protect the operation, protect the strategy, protect the reputation. And I want to be very careful here. At Complete Wellbeing Global, we are not going to tell an organization, work with us, we're going to make you an X amount of money. We cannot make that promise. And that's not even our proposition. Our strength is helping organizations see where human performance risk may be creating exposure and where stronger infrastructure can help protect what the organization has already built. And that is very different. So how do you know whether you're ready? And this is where our HPOS, the Human Performance Operating System, starts to become important. Because readiness can't just be something we assume. We need visibility. Our diagnostics allows us to establish a baseline. What is happening across the organization now? What do executives see? What do middle managers see? And what is the workforce actually experiencing? And what does the governance say should be happening? Sometimes those four pictures are very different. That gap is valuable information because once we see it, we can do something about it. Maybe leadership capability needs strengthening. Maybe workload is becoming an issue. Maybe people know support. Maybe people know support exists, but they don't trust it. Maybe people aren't confident disclosing early. Maybe the organization has excellent policies, but those policies aren't being experienced the same way operationally. The HPOS helps us start connecting those pieces. And then we measure again. This part is important. We don't want to diagnose something and hand over a report and disappear. If an organization makes an intervention, we need to understand what changed. Did trust improve? Did disclosure readiness improve? Did leadership capability improve? Did support effectiveness improve? Did the conditions around the performance improve? And over time, what is happening to the business indicators around those conditions? What business indicators? Absence, turnover, retention, productivity, operational disruption, safety indicators. That gives leadership a much stronger picture. Not perfect certainty, we are not claiming that, but visibility. And better visibility supports better decisions. And this is where I think the future is going. For years, organizations have invested heavily in responding after something has happened. Someone burns out, someone leaves, absenteeism increases, an incident occurs, performance drops. Then we respond. Human performance readiness allows us to move further upstream. We start looking at the conditions before they become consequences. And in high pressure industries, that matters. Because the earlier we can see risk building, the earlier we can have an opportunity to respond. So I leave you with this. Your organization probably knows whether its aircraft is ready. It probably knows whether its equipment is ready. It probably knows whether its systems are ready. It probably knows whether somebody has completed their required training. But how much visibility do you have of whether your human system is ready? Because readiness is bigger than having enough people. It's having people who have the capacity, conditions, and support to deliver what the organization is asking of them. And when we strengthen that readiness, we help protect the investment, protect the operation, protect the strategy, and protect the reputation. And that is where human performance becomes a business conversation. If you're working across aviation, airline, airports, in air traffic controllers, aerospace, or aviation, how does your organization currently know whether its people are ready to deliver the operation beyond qualifications and staffing numbers? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if your organization needs better visibility of its human performance risk, connect with us, 𝗕𝗂𝗶𝗶𝗄𝗏 Wellbeing Global. Through our human performance diagnostics, we help organizations establish where they are now, identify where exposure may be building, and strengthen the infrastructure needed to protect performance and enterprise value. And next week, we're going to go a step further. We're going inside the HPOS itself. I am going to show you why we built the Human Performance Operating System, what sits behind it, and how all the conversations we've had throughout the series come together. Until then, hope you can join me then. Take care.